start time here, and I've got a little bit of a presentation going on that I'll bring up as well come time. All right, so I got my coffee refreshed. This is my second cup. I'm getting all jacked up, all jazzed up for the webinar. You know, you got to bring the energy on a webinar, right? Can't give a boring webinar. You're going to get people logging off early, waiting for the recording to come out. And I had my lunch. My wife made potato leek soup. Guys, soup is so underrated. I know we're going to get serious here in a minute, so let me just say, guys, soup is underrated. We don't give soup enough credit. It is a good food. I know we think it doesn't fill us up, but it does, man. A good soup is hard to beat. So if you take anything away from this webinar, soup, you know, have a soup while you're at home quarantined. That can really pick your spirits up. A good soup. Soup is great. I agree, Chris. Okay, 12:29. We're coming up here on the start time. I know people trickle into webinars, but since this is being recorded, rather than give folks a few minutes to show up and keep everyone waiting, I think I'm just going to start this thing. I'm going to go ahead and get into it. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So obviously the title of this webinar is how to use TeamBuildr using remote training during COVID-19. So the thing is, a lot of folks are affected by this. I think last Friday, 5 schools had shut down five states have shut down their schools. That number is growing. More and more schools are doing this, both as a reaction to the COVID-19 virus, but also they're doing it as a preemptive measure. I know schools have also shut down for the semester, and that raises questions about what's going to happen in the summer. So I think when this crisis started taking place last week, coaches were thinking about, what am I going to do for a few weeks? How am I going to hold things together for a few weeks, or maybe the remainder of the semester? Those questions are now evolving into, what are coaches going to do for an extended period of time, possibly multiple months? Where the 5-week bodyweight training program was something that was sufficient, now is turning into something that may no longer be sufficient, where a larger plan might be in place, or need to be in place. Not just necessarily a strength and conditioning training plan, but a curriculum, evaluations, evaluating athletes, how coaches and teachers are evaluated by administrators. A lot of different things are going on right now. I just bring this up to put what we're doing in this webinar in context of the bigger picture. I can't address the bigger picture, right? I think it needs to be addressed, but in this particular webinar, we're going to talk about remote training and how to necessarily optimize this. Maybe you'll pull some things from this that will essentially help within the larger picture of evaluating athletes, maybe helping your administrators evaluate you as a coach or a teacher. Those are some things that I'm hoping to provide some value to in this webinar today. So a couple of housekeeping things, but first I saw I had some people come in with some chat questions. So let me just grab these chat questions to see. I want to keep it interactive, okay? So people are saying hi. 6 to 7 weeks minimum in North Carolina. See, that's a good example. That's 6-7 weeks right now. We don't know what that's going to turn into. So I mean, if anyone knows, you have to plan for the worst. You don't plan for the best. We should be all collectively putting plans together that will address whether this could be happening for 2, 3 months, 4 months. Heck, you could even put together a plan for if this was the rest of the year. This is not to scare anyone, but this is how we plan, right? We plan for the worst and we hope for the best. So that's just some important context I think I want to put out there before we get into this. Okay, so back to the presentation here. So a couple of housekeeping things. Most everyone knows, but if you don't, TeamBuildr released a 5-week at-home bodyweight training program. All right, this had already existed, and it came with a platinum plan. Now we're putting it out there for everyone. So if you don't have access to this, I'll put a link in an email after this. I'll put a link in the chat. Better yet, if you know someone who could benefit from this, it's free. Send it to them. If you know some coaches, teachers, other people who don't use TeamBuildr, send it to them, share it. It's a free resource. In addition to that, we have 3 additional programs that are free as well. One is a speed and power program to maintain speed and power in addition to strength, using nothing but your body weight and minimal implements, like a medicine ball or something heavy, like a younger sibling. No, I'm kidding. And then we have a Coach Fit at home program coming out. And then we have another program. What is this third program? Oh, it's a backpack program. So backpack programs for people who want to change it up, we're having that come out. And like I mentioned, if schools are in a situation where the remote training will have to be sustained for a longer period of time, we've already started lining up things here at TeamBuildr to provide resources for that. Not just strength and conditioning, but Gary Schofield is someone that we're working with on kind of providing an overall bigger strategy if that becomes the case. So we're looking ahead as well. Okay, secondly, giving away TeamBuildr free until April 30th. Okay, a lot of existing TeamBuildr customers have come to us and asked to train more athletes temporarily up until April 30th, and we've agreed to do that in some instances. So if you know someone who is needing to use a tool like TeamBuildr in a pinch, it's free until April 30th. Tell them, let them know. People can use our templates. They can wear out TeamBuildr all they want every single day, 1,000 athletes until April 30th, and then drop us like a hot bag of potatoes. It doesn't matter. If we can help them out, that's great. We want to make that resource available to everyone. Okay, providing support and training around the clock. Everyone here at TeamBuildr is working from home. We're all busy, but we're working around the clock to make sure that someone is going to help you out via email, via phone. All right, what this might mean is if you call the support line, you might get Ryan, right, who's our support person, but you also might get me and you might get James. Someone's going to be there to help you out. That's kind of what it is. It's all hands on deck. Okay, and then lastly, I wanted to note that there's this fundraiser coming up. It's a webinar fundraiser, Coaches versus COVID-19. If you Google that or just look it up on Facebook, this is being run by, I think Ben Watson is his name, at Hawkins Dynamic. But this is a huge webinar. The lineup is unlike anything I've ever seen. Coaches from all over the country, all over the world. And TeamBuildr happily donated $1,000 to this. Anyone else can donate if they want to. On the topic of fundraising and donations, if you're running a fundraiser or collecting donations for something, email me and let me know about it. At TeamBuildr, we've already donated here and there. I don't know if we'll be able to donate to everything that's going on, but we can chip in a little bit. I can do something for you. So if you have something that you think is a good opportunity for TeamBuildr to be involved in, just email me directly and let me know about it, and I'll see what I can do for you. Okay, so with that out of the way, we're going to talk now about the webinar. And again, the webinar is focusing on how to optimize remote training for your athletes or your clients using TeamBuildr. Okay, so this is specific to TeamBuildr, but we'll talk about some other things. So the first thing I listed here was staying top of mind. And top of mind is this term that I learned when I worked for this customer relationship management company, where basically it was professionals whose businesses were run by personal referrals. And they always talked about this phrase being top of mind. How do you stay top of mind with someone so that they think about you when it comes time to refer you? And basically building top of mind was how do you stay in touch with someone in a way that's valuable to them? That's essentially what that phrase means. So I just want to say that right now when athletes or clients are at home, a lot of things are competing for their attention. It could be video games for high school athletes. It could be the news and Twitter and just sources of updates for adults. A lot of things are going on when people are at home, right? There's a lot to think about. And you as a coach responsible for training someone, well, you're having to compete for that mind share. And that's not always easy to do. So I wanted to bring up a couple of things. Email inboxes are crowded. I get emails every day with updates, and I appreciate them, but they're coming from companies I haven't even heard of for a couple of years now. I'm getting emails, from everyone, and not individually, but companies and things like that. The email inbox is a crowded place, is what I'm trying to say. Texting, it's very crowded as well. Automated text or just getting texts in general from people, that's a high traffic channel. And then Facebook Messenger and these social media apps, they're kind of crazy too. They're out of control. When it comes to TeamBuildr, I think there's a little bit of an advantage here. I'm going to go ahead and log in now and use this as part of my presentation. The specific advantage for TeamBuildr is that we have our internal messaging system. And the TeamBuildr message, when it's sent out, gets sent out as a push notification. A push notification is a message that comes directly to the smartphone, but the message is contained to the TeamBuildr app. It's not necessarily a text. It's not a Facebook message. It's not an email. It's its own unique message. And that in and of itself is an opportunity that kind of sets you apart from the fray of other messages that athletes and clients might get. In the TeamBuildr application, if you click the messaging icon at the top left, this is how you send a message out. When you send a message, you can do it to an individual, you could do it to a group, and then if you do it to a group, you can decide to do it as a group message where someone could reply all, or do it as an announcement so that if people reply, it replies back to you individually as a coach. But here's what I recommend. TeamBuildr messaging is unlimited, so nothing should prevent you from sending out a message per day or maybe multiple messages. And what you send out depends on what you want to say, but staying top of mind with a push notification is a great opportunity to send someone out a motivational quote or just a message from you that's motivational. You can send out a dietary tip. You can send out, other information. I think if you're a strength and conditioning coach with a formal background, a certification, a degree in strength and conditioning and nutrition and fitness and wellness, you have basically value in knowledge. And if you can't be with someone personally, why not use that value and start, helping them out with these messages on a daily basis? I think that is probably one of the biggest ways that we can stay top of mind with athletes is let's use our particular channel, our TeamBuildr channel, to communicate and share some information and just be in touch with these athletes, with these clients. Using the messaging component in TeamBuildr, I think, is a great way to do that. It's unique. It has a high reach. When we see the numbers on athletes who open up push notifications, it's high. It's higher than an email open rate, exponentially higher. So TeamBuildr messaging is the first way that I think of when staying top of mind with athletes that you're training in order just to be in touch with them. Okay, so the next thing is in our presentation, individualization of training programs. Now is the time to over-deliver in terms of programming. Okay, so what I mean by that is that when you're coaching on the floor in person, coaching on the floor is basically a form of individualization. You might have a group training program or a singular program for everyone that day. But if you can go athlete by athlete and cue and teach and coach, then you're basically adding that individualization. However, if you're training remote, that's kind of been taken away from you. So individualization can be done in TeamBuildr by default by just creating a program for a group and then going to the individual level and also modifying that training program. But there are other ways of doing this. So in TeamBuildr, what I've seen some coaches do is I've seen them poll or survey their athletes. And they basically ask, what equipment do you have access to? If you have a list of athletes who have access to absolutely no equipment, no implements whatsoever, then I've seen coaches take a calendar, a sub-calendar, and basically say non-equipped. And they group those athletes on the non-equipped sub-calendar. And if you do that, then you know that the program that you write for non-equipped athletes will be the ones who don't have any implements or access to no equipment. If you have a group of athletes who have access to bands, dumbbells, maybe a barbell, maybe a pull-up bar, then what you can do is you can start subgrouping those athletes into your program. And then basically you're creating subpopulations of athletes where you can write different programs that are most appropriate for the equipment that they have access to. So if they have either bands or dumbbells, that right there is going to be one of my sub calendars. Bands or dumbbells grouped under bodyweight program, add calendar. And if you have someone who has access to a full-fledged training gym or a home gym that has a bar and a rack and all that good stuff, Well, that's great. Maybe create a third calendar for those folks. But if you can start surveying your athletes, your training population, and start understanding what they have access to, if you can build programs for sub-calendars or build programs for individuals based on those implements, you're essentially delivering a highly, highly individualized program, a highly specialized program. That's the kind of attention to detail, I think, that really will make the difference with remote training. I don't necessarily think it will be encouraging for an athlete to get a program that calls for dumbbells, bands, or a pull-up bar if they don't have access to any of that. Also, if an athlete does have access to that equipment and the program being prescribed to them is only body weight, well, you know, they're going to feel like they're being underutilized, or they're underutilizing implements that they have access to. So doing a quick survey or just a quick questioning to athletes of what they have access to, gather that information, and then start using it to group people into different programs and TeamBuildr is probably the most effective way of individualizing the training plan for your training population. So that is going to be the second point of remote training with TeamBuildr. For anyone who doesn't know, in addition to these calendar groups that you see here, when you program on TeamBuildr, you can actually go to a third tier, which is the individual athlete tier. So if of all my athletes, if I have one athlete in particular who has access to a barbell, maybe I could go to that person's individual calendar and program some barbell movements for them, even if it's 1 out of 100. It only takes you a couple minutes to do it. But you always have access to every individual's final version of a training program, in addition to the group calendars that you program onto as well. All right, so individualization of training, that is my second point. Third, utilizing video coaching and feedback. Okay, so utilizing video in TeamBuildr, for anyone who uses TeamBuildr, you probably know that if someone has TeamBuildr on their mobile app, they can add a note in response to an exercise that was prescribed to them. If I'm Rocky and I had trap bar deadlift, I can add a note and I can say anything I want to. This is the note. But on the mobile app, in addition to adding a note, they can add a video of themselves training. So they can set their phone up and record themselves doing a movement. Now, considering that most people don't have access to weight equipment right now, I've seen people use videos in different ways. Coaches have posted challenges onto TeamBuildr. And I posted a video earlier about doing a challenge. A challenge can be as simple as, when you're writing a program, simply adding a note. And when you add the note, you can say challenge. And you can say as many push-ups as possible, AMRAP push-ups in 60 seconds, right? And then that's going to be the challenge. And then you can program push-ups after that and have them enter in the number of reps that they got in 60 seconds. And then when they enter the reps, they can also upload a video of themselves, record themselves doing those AMRAP push-ups. And that's a way of creating video, not just for technique and form and coaching, but also just a way for athletes to feel good about getting credit for the work they're doing. If you can see a video of an athlete in the journal, and this is where it's accessed, workout tools, journal, all your athletes' videos will aggregate in this one place, and you can see these videos. Then, you know, you can come in here and you could say, great job. You can give a little bit of feedback on it. You can take the video and show it to someone else or post it on your social media. But basically, when you're collecting video from athletes, you're adding a different dimension of interaction than just trading numbers back and forth. You're adding that visual component that gives the athlete a little bit of skin in the game. So utilizing video is easy to do. TeamBuildr collects the videos. You can respond to the athlete by adding a note in response to the video if you're looking to do some remote coaching, some remote cueing. And this kind of brings me to the last point about utilizing video feedback and video coaching. Tex McQuilkin, who's with Power Athlete HQ, said this in a video that he contributed to TeamBuildr not too long ago. It's not just the athletes that are spending time away from the weight room. It's also the coaches who are spending time away from the weight room. If you could do some remote coaching and keep an eye on athletes, you're actually starting to improve your coaching. Coaching is not something that you're going to have forever. This is a skill, right? So if you can continue coaching and adding feedback and articulating to athletes how they can improve remotely using visual feedback, that's for you, coach. That's for you to keep sharpening your sword and sharpening your tools and your skills as a coach. So that's the last component that I was going to say about video coaching. It's a two-way street. It's for the improvement of both the coach and for the athlete. So TeamBuildr doesn't have a monopoly, obviously, on video feedback. FaceTime, going live, there's all sorts of tools that will provide video, but TeamBuildr does provide the advantage of allowing you to collect video in an organized way on a per athlete basis. And when athletes submit video, it's not public. It's not for other athletes to see. It goes to their personal journal, which only the coach can access and that particular athlete. It's not necessarily a group forum. If you're looking for a group forum, a Facebook group is a great way to do that. Facebook is good on how they manage groups. You can invite your athletes and have people submit videos right there in the Facebook group. That's a good alternative if you want to do some sort of group video contribution in addition to the individual videos that we collect here on TeamBuildr. So real quickly, I'm going to take some chats. I think I got some questions in some chats. Awesome. Let's see here. Our athletes are finally choosing to use the messaging more. Messaging, yes, it's a big deal. That's an awesome idea. How do I, and where do the kids have the option of recording their video? Okay, so Brett, in the mobile app, I can't show my mobile app right here per se. Maybe I can pull it up on my phone. But basically, if they choose an exercise on the mobile app and choose to add a note, they'll be able to upload a video. So here's my app, still a little yellow button here. If I click this yellow button, all right, on the, this is the add note screen. There's a little video icon right there. If I click that video icon, it's gonna ask me to access my video library or to allow me to record a video. And obviously the athlete will say yes. So it's the yellow button that adds a note to the exercise is what allows them to upload a video, okay? Really quickly, I got two more questions here that I'll take. Nick, when you message an entire group or calendar, does it create a group message chat style, or do they see it as direct message just to them? Okay, and do push notifications take so long to send? How do you know that they sent? Okay, great question. There's no way to know whether a push notification sent. Once your message is sent, it's queued up. If 1,000 TeamBuildr accounts are all sending messages at one time, it may take a little bit of time for those messages to go out. So as I understand it right now, we're working on speeding that up, speeding up the queue so that when you send a message, it'll instantaneously send a push notification. So if you notice a delay, it probably just means that a lot of people are trying to send a push notification at one time. Nick, to answer your question, when you create a group message, if it says create individual conversations and you click this, what will happen is that it will send out a message to every individual, but it will reply back as a private message. If you leave this unclicked, it's going to create a group message by default where someone can reply all if they wanted to. So if you're messaging individuals, check this box. If you're messaging a team and you want it to be a group chat, uncheck it. So that's the difference between the two. Okay, so that takes care of our Q&A for now. I'll circle back, so don't worry. You can keep posting your questions if you would like. So the fourth, I'm sorry, I messed up here. I used video, and then the fourth thing was going to be the challenge. And the challenge is something that I kind of mentioned already. But basically, if you're going to utilize challenges, what you're going to want to do, like I mentioned, is in the calendar, you want to first note to the athlete that this is a challenge, right? So this here says challenge push-ups in 60 seconds. So that's going to let them know that this is something that everyone's competing on. The next thing you want to do is you want to program the exercise for the challenge. So I'm going to choose push-up. I'll say 1 set, timed, and then I'll put in 60 seconds, okay? So this exercise push-up is tracking for number of reps. So I know that when an athlete accesses this push-up, it's going to be asking them for number of reps, and they'll know to do it for 60 seconds. To make sure whether your exercises are tracking correctly or not, you're going to do this in the exercise database. You want to make sure that you search your exercise like push-up, and when you do, I used a hyphen for my push-up. So hyphen push-up. The tracking type here is number of reps. If we're doing body weight exercises, it's kind of hard to compete with loads, you know, max effort reps with you know, under load. So max rep push-ups is a great challenge. You have to track it for max number of reps. Another thing that I've seen done is challenges that involve cardio, conditioning. So if you're having people run a mile as fast as possible, you can do that. Just make sure that the user input is defined. In this case, a 1 mile run would be timed. And then you can also check off that you want this to show on the leaderboard. So if an exercise is being tracked as a lift for max reps, then it will show up on the leaderboard. If you're doing speed, agility, quickness, or cardio, what you want to do is you want to check this box that says show on leaderboard. If you check that, when people start submitting their scores or their entries, then you can actually go to Workout Tools, Leaderboard, and you can pull up a query. So you can say, hey, I want to see how people are doing in the 1 mile run. So this would be a cardio, 1 mile run. And then you want to narrow it down by, which groups are applied to this. Of course, I have no data here. So let me go back to lifts and I'll do push-ups. Let me see if I have any data for the push-up. Okay, push-up contest, here we go. 43, 18, 18, 10. We've got the dates. These are all-time dates, but remember, we can filter this. We can say that we want the time frame to be today only. So if you run a today only, it'll only give you results for that day. Screenshot this leaderboard and put it out there on social media. This is the kind of stuff that creates a lot of interaction with athletes. It's just running these challenges, the things that are fun. So remember, challenges can include a lift, like max number of reps. It can include time, how long or how little did it take someone to do something. You could also do distance. If you do a speed, agility, quickness, or conditioning, you can ask someone how far they went within a certain amount of time. All those things can get ranked on a leaderboard. You can also do it for circuits, okay? So circuits is this third category of exercises. And circuits, for those who don't know, if you go to the exercise database, you go to managing lifts and click this, you can go to circuits. And a circuit is basically something you can create from scratch. You basically describe the circuit in this text box, and you can score people based on sets, number of total reps, or the time that they did it. And I actually see time being used pretty commonly. So if I have a circuit, let's call it circuit 1, and we can say 3 rounds, and then we'll say 10 push-ups, 10 pull-ups, and 50 body squats, then this right here, it only took me 10 seconds to do it, but this hypothetically is a functioning circuit that will be recording time. And this, if I click show on leaderboard, now it's gonna rank on my leaderboard. So competing on circuits is actually another good way to do a challenge in addition to lifts and speed, agility, and quickness and conditioning. Okay, so that's a little bit about challenges. That was my 4th item. I'm sorry, my PowerPoint here, I put the same thing twice, but challenges was my 4th item for this presentation. So again, I'll take a moment here. I just want to collect the Q&A. Can an individual turn off their messaging, a coach that doesn't want all group messages? I believe so. In your personal settings in your app, you have a way to turn messaging on or off, including push notifications. Next question. I'm currently logged in on my mobile app. I cannot log off. That feature is not showing. Did it change? Okay, Fred, thanks for embarrassing me on my own webinar. No, it's fine. So the latest iOS app update yesterday somehow took the log in, log out button out of the menu. So we noticed it yesterday, and today we're going to submit another update to the Apple App Store that will restore that log in, log out button. So thank you for bringing that up. That was a bug in our latest update. As you can tell, we're scrambling a little bit here. Okay, so in the chat, I'm just going to quickly check the chat here. Let's see, can it only see the calendar? Okay, so as for everyone who knows, you can add an athlete to a group and you can add them to a calendar. If an athlete is in a group, they know that because they can use that group to filter the leaderboard. They could use it to do a couple different things on their app. They do not know what calendar they're in. So if you put them in a calendar, they don't know the name of that calendar. All they know is that they're receiving some sort of training program via that calendar. So that is in response to, that's Christian. They know what group they're in. They do not know what calendar they're in. And you use groups for messaging, you use groups for leaderboard, and you use groups for reporting. Jamie, you asked that a couple minutes ago. I talked about the leaderboard a little bit. Yes, athletes can see the leaderboard. The leaderboard is visible to athletes on their smartphones. They just have a little tab called leaderboard. Is there a video or page we can send our athletes that outlines all the features of the app? Rob, this is Rob Van Valkenburg, I believe. Rob, if you go to support.teambuildr.com, okay, or to our YouTube channel, if you search iOS or Android, I have a video of me walking through the athlete app, and you can take that video and send it to your athletes. And just in case, I'm going to write your name down, and I'll send you that video myself when I'm done with this webinar. Okay, I'm gonna try to move through these quickly. When an athlete uploads a video, where can the coach access it? David, that would be Workout Tools Journal. That's where you access athlete videos. Is there a way to get challenges that you make as a note onto leaderboard, or is that to be done manually? So the leaderboard will not show the details of the challenge. The challenge that you write into a note on the calendar, that's the only place that will exist. So the leaderboard will only be based on the query of an exercise and the groups. It won't show the details of the challenge. Is there a way to get, let's see here. Chris says, keep it coming, Hewitt. You're killing it. I've taken 2 pages of notes so far. Chris, I appreciate the encouragement. It may not seem like I need it, but I could use all the encouragement I can get. Evan would like that video too. Eric would like that video too. Okay, let's do this. If you follow TeamBuildr on Twitter or social media or Instagram, I'm just going to post the link to the iOS and Android athlete app video, and then you can get it there. If not, everyone has my contact. Just hit me up and I'll send it to you. Okay, so I went through the questions in the chats for there. Let me go ahead and move on to the next part of our presentation. Okay, so let's see here. I'm not great with PowerPoint. I'm not really a PowerPoint guy, but here we are. Point number 5, who's working? How do we know who's participating and who's actually, doing some things here? Yes, we can check the videos of athletes on an individual basis, but I mean, holy heck, there's coaches coming to me who have 1,000 athletes that they're responsible for training. I mean, how are we supposed to know, who's training out of that many? So I'm glad you asked. I'm going to talk about that right now. Who's working? This basically is going to be done through our reporting module. So in Coach Tools, at the very, very bottom is our reporting section. And when you pull this up, it's a bunch of reports, but the really one report I want to talk about is this completion report. The completion report basically allows you to take a group of athletes or all your athletes, and you can either choose a specific date or you can choose a specific date range. And for that date range, you can see who has been participating in the TeamBuildr app and completing their workouts. So the first column is how many exercises were assigned to them. The second column is how many exercises they've completed. And then of course, the third column is going to be the percentage participation rate in the training program. This is a very basic report. This is what we'll show you. But what you do with this is up to you. If you want to somehow recognize your top performers, your top participators, that's not a bad idea. If you want to scroll to the bottom of this report and basically get an average participation rate, this could be something that you relay to sports coaches or administrators, or this is something that you can relay to the athletes, the students themselves, and say, hey guys, only 20% of us participated in the TeamBuildr workout. I want to see those numbers up. Let's go for 30. You can put that out there. You can use that as a challenge to your athletes. Let's get these participation numbers up. Let's get this going. So this report's really simple. It can be exported to PDF. It can be exported to Excel. This is going to log and calculate the percentage participation in the TeamBuildr app. So now that we're on this topic, not to get back into the nitty gritty, but I do want to talk about some ways that make it easier for athletes to participate in your program in the first place. If we go back to Coach Tools and go to exercises, an exercise can be tracked, right? We already talked about tracking type, but here's the thing. When we go into an exercise, there's this option that allows us to check off whether an exercise is a completion lift or not a completion lift. And here's the thing. If an exercise is not a completion lift, it's going to ask the athlete for weight or reps. And if an athlete gets asked for weight or reps for things like manual neck resistance or box jumps or sit-ups, it doesn't make a lot of sense, right? They might just skip over it altogether. You can avoid that by making an exercise a completion lift. And this is what that looks like. If I go to workout entry, if I pull up an athlete who is doing a completion lift, let me try to find someone who is doing a completion lift. Is it test? Is it Hewitt Tomlin. Anyway, I'm gonna find someone who's doing a completion lift. Nope, that's not gonna be it. I'm sorry, folks. You got to bear with me. I'm just trying to. Okay, here we go. Stability ball, hip lift to curl. There's nothing for the athlete to turn in as far as data goes. If you make it a completion lift, they just have to check this box to indicate that they did the exercise. Indicate that I did the exercise. That's all they have to do. Just allowing a lift to be completion and letting an athlete hit a checkbox will do away with them having to stare at this weight input table for a TRX row. So make sure you go through your exercises that you're programming and make sure that they are set to be completion lifts. And that way you may have someone just check boxes all the way through until they get to a challenge. And then they can tell you how many body squats they did in 5 minutes and then put that number in. And then that's the one number that they submit. I bet if you do that, you'll see your completion rates, your participation rates go up because you're asking athletes to simply confirm that they did something. You don't necessarily have to have them inputting all, these big amounts of data that may not mean anything to you anyway. You might just ask them for one piece of data, that one challenge data, that one piece that means a lot to you. I think this also applies for when you're in the weight room as well. I think it's important for athletes to record data for a variety of exercises, but usually we use 1 or 2 primary indicators on a per session basis, whether it's like a squat or a clean or a deadlift, right? These are the main indicators that we want to record data for. But maybe think twice about burdening the athlete to record data for every single exercise. If they're doing, rear lateral delt raises, maybe that's something that you don't necessarily have to mandate that they report. But that's a discussion for another time. Okay, so who's working? That's basically the reporting module. I just wanted to show you that one single report where you could quickly grab some numbers on who's doing what. Okay, so next is, and this is number 6, right? Not number 5, but number 6 is questionnaires. So we typically think about questionnaires as sports science, wellness, and readiness. But I wanted to talk about a different angle on questionnaires, digging into mental health and mental well-being. Because let's think about this. I mean, we have athletes whose competitive seasons were canceled. They went from seeing their friends at school every day and on the weekends to not doing that. If they are, abiding by the quarantine and respecting social distancing. If that's the case, that's a big change. I'm a grown adult and it's been a big change for me. It's not the same on my mentality. So these questionnaires that we can program in TeamBuildr, in addition to asking people how they're sleeping and how sore they are and things like that, why don't we take these questionnaires and use them for a little bit more? Why don't we try to gain some insights on our athletes and how they're doing mentally, right? So for those who don't know, when you write a training program and adding exercises to a calendar, you're welcome to also add an exercise type called sports science. And sports science is basically the ability to create a question and then group those questions into a questionnaire that can then be assigned to an athlete. So just really quickly, I'm going to create one question here because, we think about things like soreness and stress and fatigue, but have we ever asked an athlete, like how happy they are? How happy are you? From a scale from 1 to 10. I'm not asking you to be their therapist. Maybe that's not what you're asking to do either. But has anyone asked these athletes if they were even happy or if they were happy now or a variation of that question? So if I ask on a scale from 1 to 5, saying 2 and below is not happy and 4 and above is happy enough. If I ask this, this can be a question of a different questionnaire, right? A questionnaire that kind of fits the context today of how our athletes, how our students are doing at home. We may not know. I mean, sometimes we rely on the athlete coming into our weight room every day and we can see their body language, we can see their expressions, and that can kind of tip us off on how they're doing. But that's taken away from us. We don't have that any longer. So maybe these questionnaires are a way for us to gain some insight into how our athletes are doing behind the scenes, or how they're not doing well. I don't know. But when you put your questionnaire together, you can basically take this and add it in to the workout. You can drag it to the top if you want it to be the first thing that they answer. But we know this, right? it's not just about taking the answers and deriving some sort of action based on the results of these questionnaires. Sometimes just asking the question can make a human conscious about it. If we ask someone about their sleep, if we ask them about their diet, we don't necessarily have to take the answers and build some sort of plan off of it. Simply being asked the question to someone will help someone just be conscious of it. Maybe they'll think about it just a little bit more than they did if they were not asked this questionnaire. So the questionnaires, I want to encourage folks to use them if they're not already. If you are already using it, think about maybe how you can modify your questionnaires to fit the circumstance. So questionnaires, those go on to the workout as if it's part of the training. So a morning questionnaire to an athlete would look like this. How many hours of sleep did you get? They would slide, rate the quality of your sleep, slide it. What did you have for breakfast? And are you sore? How sore are you? This is just an example of one of our questionnaires in our application. You can make this whatever you'd like. Once athletes submit answers, we go back to our favorite place, reporting under Coach Tools. The report that I like to encourage folks to run is the questionnaire report. When we run this questionnaire report, we can select the questionnaire, we can select the date, and we can basically get some results as to how people are answering the questionnaire. And the color codes, like I mentioned, are based on the thresholds that you set for athletes. So if you have a large group of athletes, again, it can be hard, but what you may want to do is just scroll this report and look for someone who's red across the board. If they're red across the board, it means they're not doing well. Maybe that is an indicator that someone should reach out to that athlete. I don't know, but that could be a quick way of looking out for someone who may need some help. So we score the totals, or we total the scores at the end, and then we do average it for a group as well. So at the moment, we don't show sports science data longitudinally, meaning we don't show like a running average or a deviation from the norm. But I've seen a lot of coaches run this report on a daily basis and just take the averages on a daily basis and create their own spreadsheet and then track this data over time using a running average and then looking for deviations based on the averages in addition to just searching for individual deviations. Okay, so just to be clear, under Coach Tools and Reporting, that is a questionnaire report. That's going to wrap up this point in my presentation, and I saw some questions come in. So I do want to check the chat really quickly. I'm sorry for folks who know all this already. I just want to make sure people get their questions answered. Can you export questionnaires to Excel or produce reports, dashboards, and app? So you can produce that questionnaire report like I showed you. There's not much else that you can produce with that data in TeamBuildr at this time. And yes, you can export those questionnaire results to Excel. The CNS primer, someone's asking about the CNS primer. That's a game day lift. If you have access to the Platinum plan, you can download the game day lift CNS primer. That is a session that is used to prime the nervous system prior to competition, about half an hour prior to competition. So a warm up with weights, essentially. For videos on exercises, is there a time limit on how long a video can be? Our warm-up video is 6 minutes long and it's posted in the warm-up section. The video is posted but cannot be viewed. So Tyler, videos are hosted on YouTube or a similar service. We recommend YouTube. YouTube does not limit how long your video is, and we don't have any limits on how long videos can be. So if you're having trouble with the video not being able to be viewed, it's not due to the length. I would say just send that video to me, email me right now, and I'll get around to looking at it. There are a few reasons why sometimes videos can't be viewed. Weirdly enough, if you have a song in the background of your YouTube video, and YouTube detects that song is a licensed song, a protected copyrighted song, then they will not allow that video to be embedded within an app like ours because they consider it transactioning music. So just be aware, if you have music in your YouTube videos, they may not always appear in TeamBuildr. Can you show the export to Excel? Yep, I can show that. Will this webinar be available for me to share with my PE staff? Yes, I'm recording this webinar. I'll send a recording out. So people are asking about recordings. For everyone who's on the call or on the webinar, sorry, yes, this is being recorded. I'll send a recording out. Okay, great. Are those example workouts like the primer workout automatically in the saved list, or where do we download it from? Mark, if you send me an email, I can help you out with that. But if you do want to download programs from TeamBuildr, you go to Coach Tools, Exercises, and then on the left-hand side, this little cloud icon, this is our downloader. So if you search CNS, this is our pregame CNS game day lift, single session. You can start transfer, and that would transfer that to your database. So Coach Tools, Exercises, cloud icon. For reporting, questionnaire report, I'll just run this again very quickly. And once you run this, at the top right, the green button will download this report to Excel. The blue button will download this to a PDF, okay? All right, moving on here. Oh, we got some Q&As too. All right, let me just do some Q&As. Can you review the warm-up icon? Yes, I can review it. Hewitt, first of all, thanks for you guys. Wonder if you somehow would have a way to put more than one video onto warm-ups or circuits. I have videos of each warm-up, but they are separate. Okay, so this is actually a good point. Some people have individual videos of each component of a warm-up. And if your warm-up is 10 components, you don't want to put 10 warm-up items in 10 videos. Jay, I've been there. So what I do, Jay, is I use my video editor on my computer, and I take all of those 10 videos and I combine them into one long video, and then I make that my warm-up video. So it's going to take a little bit of work outside of TeamBuildr to do that, but trust me, when I did that, that was a game changer for our warm-up videos in our database. I just took those individual videos, I put them all into one big video on my video editor. I use iMovie on Mac, and once you have one big video, you save it, and then that's your one video on your one warm-up item. That's how I did it. So for those who don't know, warm-up is exercises under Coach Tools, manage lifts, and then once you do manage lifts, then you click on warm-ups right here. And then this is essentially your database of warm-ups. But like I said, each warm-up can only have one video. So if your warm-up is made up of 5, 10, 15 movements, film all those movements, combine them into one big video, it's like a highlight film of warm-up movements. And then once you have that one video, send it to YouTube, put the YouTube link into your warm-up, and then now that becomes one long video for that warm-up. So how do you get notifications to your cell phone from your messaging portion? If someone is not getting notifications from TeamBuildr, there's two things to do. One is in the app settings. This is the personal app settings for that individual. They can go and check to see if notifications are turned on or off. You want to allow notifications within the app. Apple and Android allow you to turn off notifications, so you want to make sure it's on. If for some reason that doesn't work, you will need to uninstall the app and then reinstall it. And then upon reinstalling the app, you have to say allow when Apple asks you if you want to allow notifications. What happens is if you install an app and they hit you with that prompt, would you like to receive notifications? If you say don't allow, then that's a permanent feature. You can't turn it off. So the only way to restart that is to uninstall the app, reinstall it, and then allow notifications when you're asked again. Okay. Yes, the webinar is recorded. I'm currently logged to my mobile app. I cannot log off. Okay, so I went through all the Q&As, I think, and then I went through all the chats, right? Yeah, so just to confirm, Mike, yeah, we will be able to run longitudinal reports of athlete data as it relates to questionnaires in sports science. Obviously, we do that right now with lifts and training data, but we don't do it yet with sports science data, but we will. Okay, and then someone had raised their hand, but quite frankly, I don't know what to do if someone raises their hand. So hey, whoever raised their hand, if you just want to type in, if you type into the chat or the Q&A, I'll take care of you there. I'm almost done with my presentation. I'm trying to keep moving here for folks. Okay, here's the last thing, and this is kind of cheating, right? This doesn't necessarily have to do with TeamBuildr, but I thought it was important and pertinent to put it in here as well. Call, don't text. Okay, this is not to say that you shouldn't be texting anyone. Texting is great. I really appreciate all the texts I've gotten from people asking if I have been safe or if everything's okay with me. But here's the thing. I read the other day on Twitter from a coach who decided to, rather than text his athletes to make sure they were okay, he decided to call them. And he said that it took him 2 hours to talk to 10 athletes. because the athletes wouldn't get off the phone. What he was basically saying was that these athletes want to speak to someone. They want to talk to someone. It's not the same as texting and messaging. All right. I know that for close to a decade now, we've said that millennials communicate differently, that Gen Z communicates differently, and maybe that's true. But at the end of the day, we're all human. And in times like this, when there's a lot of uncertainty, where we don't know what's going on, we may be a little bit scared, we're ultimately still human. And to receive a call from a coach or from a friend, it goes a really long way. So at the end of the day, I know that when you're training and responsible for the programs of 1,000 athletes, it's hard to do this, but it's worth thinking about how we can go above and beyond a text or a message or an email. How can we really connect with some of these athletes, the ones who may not even be doing well? So that was my last thing there. Pick up the phone. If anything, you could call your mother, call someone. It's just nice to get a phone call. And things are busy here at TeamBuildr, but when I get some time, I'm gonna make sure to talk to someone who may need it, or I may need it. But this is the last thing I wanted to just put on here was don't forget that I've heard people say a call is worth 1,000 texts. A phone call just really goes a long way. So that was the last thing I wanted to end with. No TeamBuildr hot tip there. Just a little something about remembering that we're ultimately all human, and some things go further than others. Okay, so now that leaves me quite a bit of time for some Q&A. All right, let's see here. Jay, thank you, man. I appreciate you being a customer. Everyone who's saying thank you, I appreciate you guys. You guys keep the lights on here at TeamBuildr, and we're really, really, really appreciative. So yes, everyone, this webinar is being recorded. I will send the recording out. Here are some folks in the chat. Thank you guys. Evan, thank you. Kyle, thank you, man. JT, all you guys, awesome. Really appreciate it. I know a lot of you folks I haven't met either. I try to go to as many events as I can. So hopefully if I haven't met you, I will meet you in the future. I really would appreciate that. All those events, NSCA, NHSSCA, so on. Alice, you too. Thank you. Dave, Jamie, appreciate you guys. Really do. I'm trying to find if there's anyone here that needs something specifically. Here's Steve, Steve, Notebear. I can help you with that. If you just send me a text or shoot me an email, I can hit that. I can get that to you really quickly. Here's some more folks. Thank you guys. Really appreciate it. Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming to this thing. Honestly, when I started this webinar, I didn't know anyone would show up. I thought maybe everyone knew all this stuff already, but maybe I taught someone something new or something. I'm not sure. Okay. Yeah. You're welcome, guys. I know crazy times, and I'm glad TeamBuildr is coming through for you. And as always, I appreciate the suggestions. So I think it's safe to say that the teaching and the Q&A part is over. I'm getting a lot of messages from folks here saying thank you. Hey, thank you guys. Really appreciate it. You guys are the ones who keep this machine going. With that being said, please reach out to me. I want to hear from all of you. I want to get a text or an email or even a phone call. I want to get a phone call. I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to answer every call or get a chance to call everyone back, but try anyway. And if you have questions, just support questions, anything at all, hit me up, hit up our support team. I'm happy to help you guys. I blocked off another half hour for when this webinar was over, so I'll take this half hour just to look out for your stuff, questions or whatever, and try to help you guys out with anything that I missed during the webinar. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing this thing. I'm going to shut this thing down. I plan on holding another webinar later this week. The webinar later this week is going to be oriented towards coaching businesses. So if you have a side business coaching people remotely, or a facility, or if you're a trainer, I'm going to hold something for that side of things. So you're welcome to join on that. I haven't set up the details yet, but I'm going to be putting that up at some point soon. All right, everyone, look, stay safe, be strong. Let's do the right thing, and we're going to get through this thing. And hopefully things will return to normal soon. But even if it's not soon, we're going to power through. We're going to be okay. We're going to make it through. Okay, thanks, everyone. I'm going to shut it down, and I'll talk to you all individually.